Hey guys, we just got out of seeing Super Mario Brothers the movie. I'm here with my buddy Cam. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I remember being at your house since we were kids and you had all those Mario posters up and we were always playing Nintendo games, so I figured what better person than you to talk about this.
Well, I appreciate it. Mario's definitely been a part of the childhood.
So critics are giving this movie mixed reviews. I think you've seen it, so have I, but audience score is really good. What was your initial thoughts about the movie before we jump into details?
I'd have to say it was a really good movie based on. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations going into it. I didn't watch any trailers, knew absolutely nothing about it other than Nintendo was a part of it and they played a big role in it. And Nintendo's incredibly strict on their copyright and the things they have, so I had decent hopes for it and it paid off.
Yeah, you know more about that than I do, so that makes sense going into it because I kept thinking this movie is really true to its source material. A lot of the music and everything was throwbacks to different games. Pretty much every part of it was true to its source. I mean, the games and all the things we know about it. But you saying that makes sense, why it was so close at that point. There was pretty much no creative freedom taken, I felt like, other than the fact Illumination did the animation and it kind of had their Minions-y style to it at times.
I would have to agree there. I don't think that if anything Nintendo is going to be produced, that anybody will have creative freedom on that because Nintendo, they're just too strict on their material. You don't get freedom in any of their stuff.
Yeah, for some companies that might be a bad thing. For Nintendo, it seems like a really good thing because this, to me, might be the best video game movie ever made.
I have to agree there. It was really good, enjoyable the whole time. I remember specific parts of the movie feeling excited for everything that was coming up, everything that I imagined coming up, and just taking it back to all the different games that they were using.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much more experience with it than I do. So for you to say that, I'll take your word for it, man. Now, one of the biggest points that everyone brings up is the voices and specifically Chris Pratt's voice for Mario. What were your thoughts on it? Because I'm a little bit mixed opinion, to be honest.
The way the movie opens definitely threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting the exact voices that were going on there. But then once you kind of got taken out of that and it flowed into how it was normally going to be for the rest of the movie, it was good. And if I didn't know any better, it would have taken me a while to realize that it was Chris Pratt. And it didn't really take me out of the movie at all. He did a really good job, I thought.
I'm with you, man. I mean, it felt like he gave his personality piece into it, but it wasn't him. And we know his voice from playing Star-Lord and all these things, and he always kind of has that same inflection in his voice. But I'm with you. It didn't feel like Chris Pratt. Just like Bowser didn't really feel like Jack Black, to be honest, other than his singing parts, which were awesome.
Best parts, yeah.
Yeah, best scenes in the movie, Jack Black singing. We won't go into more details than that, but it was awesome.
Definitely worth the throwing him in there. You can't have Jack Black in a movie without him singing, and they pulled that off real well.
They definitely gave him some creative freedom in this movie, which was kind of awesome, honestly. Part of me does wish that they kept the Mario voice at times, even when he's using power-ups or leaping or different things in the game where Mario would yell Yahoo and things like that. I kind of wish they did it a little bit more than just the Mamma Mia stuff they kept doing. But at the same time, it's like, does it really matter? Did it affect my enjoyment of the movie? I guess no. So I guess I'm with you on that. I think people are maybe making it a bigger deal than it is, but he did a really good job.
The point where he's using the power-ups and leaping and all the different sounds that he would make, there were definitely, I could tell that they took the same sounds from old video games and kind of put those in instead of having the voiceovers. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but that's what it sounded like. And I thought that was a really good touch, and it brought me more into the movie, and it brought me back to when I was playing those games and actually hearing those sounds. It was really cool.
And not only the sounds, but the storyline too. It was a little bit different this time around, and you can see this in the trailer, so I don't think it's really a spoiler. But Mario's not necessarily saving Peach this time, but the structure of the story is basically the same. And I think we both appreciated that. We sort of looked at each other at one point. I was thinking about the fact that this is really cool. This is exactly sort of what I wanted. I didn't want them to stray too far from what makes the whole storyline the storyline. It felt like they were really true to that, and totally respected it, even though they tweaked it a little bit. I mean, what did you think?
I felt that the whole storyline of this movie came from a majority of it came from Super Paper Mario for the Wii. Like, so much of what happened in this movie was just everything reminded me of Super Paper Mario, which was a fantastic game. I loved playing that game. I can't even remember how many times I played it. It doesn't clearly resemble Super Paper Mario, but they definitely took a lot of inspiration from it.
And aside from like specific points, I guess our overall feeling in the theater, at least I can speak for myself, but I could tell you felt the same way, I think, is that this was a super enjoyable movie. Almost every aspect of it was entertaining, exactly what you would have wanted, true to the source material, but also something new. The graphics were incredible. I mean, I don't really know what else I could have asked for. I don't know how you feel.
Completely the same. There was no point of that where I was disappointed in what was going on, disappointed in the way anything looked, or the story, or the voices for that matter. It was a really enjoyable time to be in there watching it. Whether you're in a movie theater or watching it at home later, it was, no matter how you see it, it was a fantastic movie.
And it felt like all ages could enjoy it. We had a lot of kids in our theater and some middle-aged people that made the experience slightly worse, to put it very politically correctly. But I think the kids seemed to really enjoy it, and obviously we enjoyed it. So it got me thinking, like, what... I mean, it achieved its goal of being very entertaining for anybody of all ages, but at the same time, it made me question, like, what is the target audience for this movie? Because we clearly grew up playing Mario. I'd go over your house and we'd play every version of Mario. We'd play Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Mario Brothers. I mean, you name it. Luigi's Mansion a million times, Super Mario Galaxy, just goes on and on. But I think that those were the things that we played together, and that's what made it special for us. But kids today, like we were both talking about it walking out of the theater, we're like, kids are playing tablets these days, and like we see, like my younger cousins are always playing app games and stuff. So it seemed like kids were enjoying it, but was this intended for us? It almost felt like a little bit. I don't know if you felt that way or not.
I think it applied to everybody that could possibly be watching it. You know, all ages. Old people that grew up on Mario originally, and then us growing up on it with the slightly more advanced games, and now the younger kids growing up with the apps for the Mario games. I think it could apply to everybody. And the young kids that haven't experienced Mario at all, I think this kind of movie, seeing how cool everything in it was, because it was just fantastic, I think it would entice those kids to want to learn more about Mario and see some of the games and check those out. So I think it'll bring more kids and maybe even more adults into the audience of Nintendo.
Good point. Maybe that's what their whole idea was with releasing this. They're like, hey, let's get this new generation on Mario again or something.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I saw some kids wearing costumes in there.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was super cool. It almost felt like what you said. Maybe it is bringing it to another generation. I mean, it's kind of sad the app games are so terrible. Like, these kids need some real games.
You can only do so much on an app, and if that's where the entire audience is today, you got to cater to it. You got to find them somehow. You can't market GameCube games forever, because eventually those people are going to lose interest.
One of my biggest concerns, I think, for me was when I saw that Illumination, I think that's the name, Entertainment, was animating this movie. I hate Minions, and I don't really like any of their movies, except maybe the first Despicable Me was okay. I was a little bit worried that they were going to bring too much of their thing to this movie, their shtick. But it honestly felt like, and kind of to your point about Nintendo being very controlling, it felt like it was so much more Nintendo than Illumination. It was like Illumination just brought Nintendo's vision alive. I mean, I really think, like, for anybody going to see this film that has that same concern, you're not going to think about Minions once in this movie, probably. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. I wouldn't have known at all if it had anything to do with Minions if it wasn't for all the ads before the movie played.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Maybe just like the jiggliness and bounciness of the characters or something in the eyes, but that's really just nitpicky. 90% of people are going to go see it and not care about that.
And all that was still true to the source material of everything that had those features to them.
True. Yeah. Yeah, everything did look like the games.
Yeah.
The animation here was honestly amazing. It felt like they got the colors right. They got everything right. Like right from the first shot, when, and not to spoil anything, this doesn't spoil anything, but you see the lava coming off of Bowser's place or whatever, and it had that color. Like it's hard to explain, but playing Mario Kart, playing all these games, it's like ingrained in my brain what the lava looks like that certain like shininess to it, what it looks like in Mario games, and they got it exactly right from the first shot of the movie. Did you notice that at all? Like it was like perfect.
It reminded me a lot of most of the lava from Super Mario Sunshine, because there was a lot to do with, and same with pretty much every Mario game, it was in there, but Super Mario Sunshine had a lot of color pop to it, and a lot of that movie brought me back to that game, which I really enjoyed, because that's one of my favorite Mario games, along with every Paper Mario game there is.
Yeah.
And that first scene really reminded me of the opening scene of Episode 4 of Star Wars. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Ooh, wait, explain.
It opens with you under Bowser's castle, and his castle just going ahead.
Yeah.
And Star Wars Episode 4 opens with you under a Star Destroyer, and the Star Destroyer going ahead.
I'm including that. That's a really good explanation. That's so true. You need to take my job, Cam, and take over the channel. I didn't even notice that.
You probably don't watch Star Wars as often as I do.
That's true. After the new Disney takeover, I really have no interest, but I know both of us enjoy the original films in the Old Republic. But we could talk about that forever. But yeah,
different set of episodes.
Yeah. That's a good comparison, though. The structure of the film was honestly perfect. It felt like a very well-structured movie. I think anybody of all ages are going to enjoy it. They had enough edgy jokes to keep us interested. Like, you had, like, the kiddish stuff for a while, which was still entertaining. But there's one character in particular that kept us interested throughout the whole movie because it was a little bit more adult. It reminded me of Shrek, how they kind of throw in that slightly edgier type of comedy to keep the adults excited. It worked really well, and this character kept making these depressing, almost like existential crisis jokes, but in a really funny way.
That character had the whole theater laughing. Whether you were a kid or an adult, that character just brought a huge amount of comedic relief to the movie.
Yeah, it did. It almost reminds you of like when Donkey and Shrek would come out at the perfect time or something. It feels like movies have forgotten that balance. Like Pixar used to even have slightly edgier comedy, and recently it feels very catered to only kids. I don't know if that's partially because of the lack of theater attendance or because they don't care about that anymore for some reason. I don't know, but it made the movie so much more enjoyable, I think, for us, which also makes me feel like it's slightly self-aware of its variety of target audiences. And I just thought it did a really good job of being entertaining for literally anybody.
Yeah, Nintendo definitely knows who they made a movie for, and they definitely know how to make a movie for every single age. No matter who's coming to see it, they're going to keep you entertained.
Yeah, and even from a game's perspective, right? They had some of the hats from Super Mario Odyssey. They had that star character from Super Mario Galaxy. So no matter what Mario game you're interested in, or I think whichever one me and you grew up on, or younger kids or older people than us grew up on, it probably had something to make you satisfied. And it did have fan service, which sometimes people criticize. But I've always thought, I'm a fan, so service me, and I don't care.
That's a good way to look at it.
So overall, what would you rank this in the Halum's Heroes ranking?
I don't want to put it in Halum's Greatest Heroes. Even though it was a great movie, it was more of a movie that you would go to kind of shut your brain off and just enjoy and look at everything and have a laugh and just have a really enjoyable time with it. There wasn't more depth to it. You didn't have to do a whole lot of thinking, and there wasn't a lot of extra to it.
Right.
So I don't know if I'd put it at the top.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It doesn't break a whole lot of new ground. It's just a really enjoyable kids movie with a ton of nostalgia for guys like us. It did a really nice job with what it had, but it's not doing anything brand new or amazing to put it up there. So I'm with you. So what would you put it at? Because I think we have the same ranking.
I think I'd have to rate it as a king.
I'm going to have to rate it a king.
Epic.
Yeah, we had the same rank. I think we enjoyed it basically the same amount. You appreciated probably a little bit more some of the games and nostalgia you have. But even for me, slightly less of a fan, but still a huge fan. I loved it too. So thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Yeah, it was awesome. We're gonna have to do it again, maybe for a slightly more adult movie with a little bit more depth. We can do a deep dive or something. But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you guys as always for watching. Be sure to like and comment below what you thought of the movie and subscribe if you haven't already. Cam, let's pick a movie to watch.
Mario Bros.
Get out of here, bro. It's 12 o'clock. Let's get the hell out of here.
It's 10:30.
That's how we're going to end it.